Have you ever wondered why alcohol is sometimes called spirit? Is it just a word, or does it hold a deeper, more mysterious meaning? What if I told you that the drink on your shelf has ancient connections to mysticism, alchemy, and spiritual transformation? Could the very essence of this spirit, rooted in ancient practices, reveal secrets about our spiritual journey and our search for transcendence? Stay until the end of this video to uncover how alcohol, this so-called spirit, relates to spirituality, and learn how you can use this knowledge to elevate your own life.
The trot behind.
According to Ital spirits, usually drinks are specifically distinguished as alcoholic beverages because of their content. But where does the word alcohol come from? According to numerous scientific sources, the terms originated from the Arabic al-Kuhul or alcohol, which referred to a method of manufacturing makeup in ancient Egypt. When men and women alike used a thick, dark paste made of different chemicals, kohl, to cover the borders of their eyes. The practice was both a superstitious belief to protect their souls and avoid evil spirits, or better, the evil eye, and an actual cure to the eye infections circulating in the desert. The interesting aspect is that kohl was a substance obtained through one of the earliest processes of distillation in human history. Alcohol, as a term, comes from Arabic kohl, which now is also the term for eyeliner. The reason is that it comes into English via medieval Latin and later Old French. The Arabic term was inherited from medieval Latin translations of early Arabic alchemical texts, where the term was applied to the main ore of antimony, stibnite. Stibnite, when crushed and then powdered and mixed with water, was used to create kohl eyeliner, amongst other things. Later, the term, now inherited into late medieval French, gets used more generally to refer to powdered substances, and particularly those created by titration, precipitation out of a liquid. Then, as alchemical practice evolved, it is used for liquid substances gained through boiling down or distilling. Thus, in the 17th to late 18th century, it becomes synonymous with spirit of, or essence of, that is distilled out of, and is applied to several substances including spirit of wine grape, that is ethanol, which becomes its main meaning, as the other substances are chemically identified or refined. From about 1850, its meaning shifts again to a more strict chemical definition for all alcohols, ethanol, methanol, propanol, etc. That is any chemical with an OH functional group. This evolution of use and meaning is also where the Opie's folktale comes from. A confusion of the use of the term spirit, which in English-speaking countries is a term applied to drinks with a high alcohol content. For example, vodka, whiskey, brandy, etc. But is also a word applied to essence of a person, known as ghosts, soul, etc. Over time, the term alcohol came to signify an essence derived through alchemical processes, specifically distillation. This essence, whether material or spiritual, represented a refined state, distilled from coarse matter into a purified, potent form. In alchemy, alcohol aligns with the principle of transformation, a core tenet of spiritual practices. Just as physical substances undergo distillation to extract their essence, the soul undergoes a similar refining process through spiritual practices. However, when this essence is misapplied, such as in the overuse of alcohol, it becomes a deceptive substitute for true spiritual transformation, mimicking the transcendence it was meant to inspire. The distillation process, central to creating alcohol, mirrors spiritual alchemy in material terms. Distillation separates the pure from the impure, yielding a concentrated product. Mystically, this corresponds to the soul's journey through the trials of life, emerging purified and closer to the divine. Yet, alcohol itself becomes a paradoxical metaphor in this context. While it is the product of a refined process, its consumption often leads to disconnection rather than union. The spiritual essence that alchemy seeks to distill is one of higher consciousness, clarity, and divine connection. Alcohol, as a physical substance, simulates this experience by altering perception and consciousness. But it remains a shadow of true inner transformation achieved through practices like meditation, prayer, and self-discipline. Instead of uplifting the soul, alcohol often anchors it deeper into the material realm. In mystical traditions, the soul is likened to a flame or light, striving to connect with its divine source. Yet alcohol, by its very nature, lowers the vibrational frequency of the body and mind, making it harder for the soul to resonate with higher spiritual realms. This disconnection acts as a veil, obscuring the soul's innate connection to the divine. The altered states induced by alcohol create an illusion of liberation. But this fleeting sense of freedom is not true transcendence. It is a temporary escape from the weight of material existence. Unlike meditative states, which elevate consciousness, alcohol's effects dull the mind and tether the soul to a lower vibrational plane, limiting its ability to access spiritual insight and intuitive clarity. Alcohol also inhibits the pineal gland, often referred to as the third eye in mystical traditions, which is believed to facilitate spiritual insight and intuitive perception. Regular consumption dulls this sensitivity, severing the individual from their inner guidance system and divine connection. Spiritual practices aim to cultivate awareness, presence, and heightened sensitivity to subtle energies. Alcohol, however, creates a barrier to spiritual progress. Over time, this loss of spiritual sensitivity can lead to feelings of stagnation, confusion, and disconnection from one's higher purpose. The very awareness that seekers strive to enhance becomes diminished, leaving them trapped in a cycle of illusion and temporary gratification. Alcohol is also seen as a symbol of samsara, the cycle of suffering in Eastern spiritual traditions. Samsara represents the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, characterized by suffering and attachment. Alcohol epitomizes this cycle in several ways. Its consumption often arises from a desire to escape pain or seek pleasure, two driving forces that perpetuate attachment and suffering. The effects of alcohol are inherently cyclical. Euphoria is followed by a crash, which creates a craving for repetition. This mirrors the broader pattern of samsara, where fleeting pleasures are sought, despite their inability to provide lasting fulfillment. Just as the soul is trapped in the karmic cycle until it achieves liberation, the individual remains caught in a loop of indulgence and dissatisfaction, perpetuated by alcohol. At its core, the human desire for intoxication reflects an unconscious longing for transcendence. The temporary relief and altered state provided by alcohol mimic the bliss and unity experienced in genuine spiritual connection. This yearning is a distorted expression of the soul's innate desire to return to its divine source. However, because alcohol is a material substance, it cannot fulfill this longing. Instead, it acts as a counterfeit, providing momentary relief while deepening the soul's disconnection from its true essence. The indulgence becomes a substitute for the inner work required to achieve lasting spiritual fulfillment, leading to dependency and a false sense of security. The path of spiritual awakening involves recognizing and redirecting this yearning toward practices that provide true transcendence. By turning inward and embracing disciplines such as meditation, chanting, and devotion, the seeker can access the bliss they unconsciously seek through external substances. This redirection transforms the cycle of addiction into a journey of liberation. Alcohol, in its essence and origins, represents a profound spiritual paradox. While its alchemical roots and symbolic nature tie it to concepts of refinement and transcendence, its misuse often leads to entrapment in lower vibrations. The teachings of spiritual masters consistently emphasize awareness, clarity, and inner connection as the keys to liberation, qualities that alcohol diminishes. To transcend the cycle of desire and illusion that alcohol perpetuates, one must recognize the soul's true longing for divine union. This realization marks the beginning of a transformative journey, turning the unconscious craving for intoxication into a conscious pursuit of spiritual awakening. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. Kindly hit subscribe, turn on notifications, like this post, and share it with anyone who needs to see it. Rumi, the great Sufi poet and mystic, often spoke of intoxication in his works, but his references were predominantly metaphorical, pointing to the divine ecstasy of spiritual union. In his writings, wine frequently symbolizes the love of the divine, an elixir that elevates the soul into realms of boundless joy and connection. He writes, "Be drunk with love, for love is all that exists." Rumi contrasts this divine intoxication with the false refuge of physical intoxication. He warns that while physical wine may provide a fleeting escape, it leads to spiritual numbness, clouding the clarity needed to perceive higher truths. For Rumi, true intoxication arises not from substances, but from surrender to the beloved God, which allows the soul to transcend worldly limitations. In Rumi's Sufi tradition, the metaphor of drunkenness often reflects the loss of ego and the embrace of divine unity. Physical alcohol, however, is seen as a pale and dangerous imitation of this state, tempting the seeker with a counterfeit experience that ultimately leads to deeper entanglement in the material world. Osho, a spiritual teacher, emphasized the importance of awareness and living in the present moment. For him, alcohol represents a significant barrier to mindfulness. He explained that alcohol dulls the mind, making it harder to be fully present and aware of the subtle energies that guide us towards spiritual growth. Osho's teachings align with those of Rumi, highlighting that true intoxication, the kind that elevates the soul, comes not from external substances, but from the inner surrender to divine consciousness. The senses, in their endless pursuit of pleasure, often distance individuals from the reality of their existence, creating a false sense of liberation. Osho frequently remarked that awareness is the key to transformation, yet alcohol destroys this awareness, making it nearly impossible to see the truth of who you really are. Osho viewed alcohol as an anesthetic, a tool people use to numb themselves to the pain of life rather than confronting and transcending it. He taught that true liberation comes from turning inward, embracing the discomfort of growth, and expanding awareness through practices like meditation. For Osho, the path of mindfulness requires full presence, and any substance that clouds the mind undermines the seeker's ability to evolve spiritually. Paramahansa Yogananda, the revered yogic master and author of Autobiography of a Yogi, placed great emphasis on self-discipline and the cultivation of spiritual clarity. He warned that alcohol compromises the mind's ability to concentrate and weakens the willpower necessary for spiritual practice. Yogananda taught that the human mind is naturally restless, like a pond stirred by the wind. Alcohol exacerbates this restlessness, making it harder for the practitioner to still the mind and access the deeper states of meditation required for divine communion. He said intoxicants destroy the harmony of body and mind. They veil the inner light that guides the soul toward liberation. For Yogananda, the path to enlightenment depends on mastering the senses and cultivating inner strength. Alcohol, by distorting perception and diminishing self-control, becomes a significant obstacle on this journey. Ancient spiritual traditions often warned against the consumption of alcohol, viewing it as a hindrance to spiritual progress. In Buddhism, abstaining from intoxicants is one of the 5 precepts, highlighting its importance for maintaining clarity and ethical living. Similarly, Hindu scriptures, such as the Manu Smriti, caution against alcohol, associating it with the loss of self-discipline and moral degradation. In Sufism, while wine is used metaphorically to describe divine love and spiritual ecstasy, physical wine is explicitly discouraged. It is seen as a distraction that pulls the seeker away from their unity with God. The mystic Jalaluddin Rumi often employed the imagery of wine to represent the overwhelming love of the divine, but he emphasized that true intoxication comes from spiritual practices, not substances. In Gnostic Christianity, the wine of the world is used as a symbol of attachment to material pleasures and distractions. Gnostic texts emphasize the importance of vigilance and purity, warning that the pleasures of the flesh, including intoxication, divert the soul from its divine purpose. The true wine, according to Gnosticism, is gnosis, spiritual knowledge that liberates the soul from the cycles of suffering. Alcohol occupies a paradoxical place in sacred texts, symbolizing both divine communion and worldly distraction. In the Bible, for instance, wine is a central element of the Eucharist, representing the blood of Christ and the promise of eternal life. However, excessive drinking is condemned, as seen in Proverbs 20:1. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. This dual symbolism reflects alcohol's capacity to either connect or disconnect the soul from its spiritual essence, depending on the context and intention behind its use. In alchemical and mystical traditions, wine often symbolizes the spiritual elixir, a substance or state that elevates the soul. This wine is not a physical drink, but a metaphor for divine grace, a spiritual essence that intoxicates the soul with joy and insight. The danger lies in mistaking physical wine for its spiritual counterpart, seeking divine intoxication through material means. Divine intoxication, or spiritual inebriation, refers to the overwhelming bliss and ecstasy experienced in states of union with the divine. This state transcends ordinary consciousness, filling the soul with boundless love, joy, and wisdom. Mystics across various traditions have described this experience as the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey. For example, Rumi speaks of being drunk on the wine of love, a state where the soul loses itself in the infinite ocean of the divine. This intoxication is not a dulling of the senses, but rather an awakening to the profound interconnectedness of all existence. Physical intoxication through alcohol is but a shadow of spiritual intoxication. While the former numbs the senses and creates an artificial sense of euphoria, the latter heightens awareness and leads to authentic joy. True spiritual inebriation requires no external substances. It is the result of deep inner work and surrender to the divine. Mystics have long provided guidance on achieving spiritual intoxication through practices like meditation and devotion. Meditation quiets the mind and helps access the divine presence within. Devotional practices such as chanting, singing, or prayer foster a sense of unity with the divine. Selfless service, acts of love and compassion, can also dissolve the ego, opening the heart to divine grace. The Persian poet Hafez beautifully captures the essence of spiritual intoxication with the lines, "I'm a hole in a flute that the Christ breath moves through." Listen to this music. Here, Hafez conveys the sense of being utterly surrendered to the divine, allowing its grace to flow freely through the soul. Now that we've uncovered the spiritual paradox behind alcohol and its deeper meaning, what do you think? Do you see it as a simple escape? Or is it a metaphor for something far more profound? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, share your personal experiences, and let's start a conversation about how we can all strive for true spiritual awakening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more insights like these. Together, let's uncover the secrets they never wanted us to know.